Welcome to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. I'm Melissa Joy, a certified financial planner and the founder of Pearl Planning. My goal is to help you streamline and organize your finances, navigate big money decisions with confidence, and be strategic in order to grow your wealth. As a woman, you work hard for your money, and I'm here to help you make the most of it. Now, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Women's Money Wisdom Podcast. Today, I'm going to talk on a very special episode with one of my friends, Dr. Rubina Tahir. And Rubina is not only an amazing business owner, but she also shared a very personal journey and basically a guide on how to conquer fears on a recent TED Talk. So Rubina is the owner of the Joint Chiropractic. She is a doctor. I should have said up front, I always just think of you as Rubina, but Dr. Rubina Tahir. We're going to talk about her TED Talk episode or talk and provide some important updates. Rubina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I love that we get to do this together.
We met through an amazing organization called WXW. It's a women's professional networking organization, which sounds like eek, kind of gross, but is so special, where I met so many friends, including you, Rubina. But shortly after we met, you shared your TED Talk and your personal journey. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first, can you take a minute to introduce yourself other than just my buddy?
Well, I love having you as a friend, and I'm so grateful for this. So how I always describe myself is by saying that, 1 out of 10 Americans, actually, let me say that again. I apologize. Can I start again? Sorry about that. I'm going into like 2 different stats. Okay. So 8 out of 10 Americans will experience back pain at some point in their life. So enter me. I'm a chiropractor. I love natural ways of healing. I really believe that physical touch is a very important way of healing. And so I find where stress is in your body, and I help you maximize your productivity, because when you have pain, you're not going to have the best output that you want to manage all the things that you have to do every single day. And based off of that, I started a corporate wellness company where I actually go into different work environments and I'll talk about different topics. So we'll do a seminar, or we'll do a fun workshop together, because going to a chiropractor, going to your PCP, that's great, but you need to spend more time on your health and gather information so that you can make a better choice.
I love that. I was just talking to one of my friends who's one of the wealthiest people I know by dollar sense. And she was talking about how I'm getting it all wrong because I'm not spending enough time giving attention to my own well-being. And also, time is a very scarce resource for me. So this is something that, regardless of your bank balance, is so important. And I love the work you're doing there.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Nora.
So you are all about having people be better, helping them alleviate pain, creating a better sense of being, and a more alignment with your body, I know. So then how did you find your pathway to creating your TED Talk, which is not about, it's about something that's in your mind. It's about fear.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I was living in Toronto at the time. I was on top of my game, health-wise and money-wise. I had a successful chiropractic practice. And one day I received a phone call from my cousin in her 20s telling me that she had stage 3 breast cancer. It was shocking. I mean, I didn't really know how to unpack that information. And then on top of that, she told me I should get tested for a BRCA1 mutation. And I'm like, what is this? Now, I know my mom's journey with breast cancer when she was in her 20s, but I thought there's no way. There's no way this is going to happen to me. Right. I didn't want to be afraid. And that kind of started the wheels spinning for my TEDx talk. I didn't realize it at the time, but I didn't want to be afraid. So denial was a great option for me. However, I still wanted to show up for myself. So I went to get genetic testing. I found out I had the gene. And it really put me in a spiral. Like, I was afraid every single day. I couldn't sleep. I thought I was going to wake up and that was going to be the day that I got breast cancer. But I continued to show up for myself. And through a lot of digging really deep and meeting a lot of healthcare professionals, I put together a plan. And everyone needs a plan for everything, for money, for health. And I decided to get screening every single year. So fast forward to this year, I got a little confident. I was doing my screenings. I think it's like year 12 or 11 of mammograms. And I'm like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I went in, and it turns out that they saw something on my mammogram. And this was really shocking to me. I wasn't ready for that. But I was like, it's okay. Lots of women have biopsies. I get a biopsy and I find out that I have breast cancer. Now, before this, I wanted to do something for women who are dealing with the daily fear of living with a BRCA mutation. And thought I would put my journey together in this TEDx talk. Now, I didn't think I was going to get breast cancer a month before I was to deliver this TEDx talk. I think the timing of it all, it's still, I mean, I can't believe it. It's still so shocking. But I wanted to help people with their plan because fear will make you spiral and we avoid more often than we deal with things.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And I think I encourage everyone to use the link in the podcast show notes to listen to your amazing TED Talk, which is on YouTube and getting thousands of views. Um, because you, in your episode, and we're going to get back to your own personal journey, but in this conversation that you've been preparing as you're about to receive this news that comes out of left field, that the whole point of your story is coming back to visit you. Um, what I got out of it, and you can talk about, your three things that in your talk about fear, you do an amazing job of talking about inner voices, and in your case, even an inner imaginary friend that you use to get past the fear. But the lesson that I heard in the whole conversation is a very relatable way to focus on what you can control, which is what we do with money. And we're going to talk about a breast cancer survivor's journey and how it relates to money in a minute. But share how you found the ability to harness or to, use that voice that you had in conversation with yourself to get through, and also kind of your free takeaways.
Mhm. I think what's really important to note is that when you're dealing with something, it can feel lonely, right? But it doesn't necessarily need to always feel that way. And I would talk to myself a lot. And that's basically where this came from. And I think that I posed a question, how would your life be different if overwhelmed by fear, you think like you're talking to an imaginary friend? You have this companion who's not judging you, who doesn't talk back to you, but allows you to process your thoughts and your emotions so you can make a better decision for yourself. So imagine being 29 and having a mammogram, and the tech's doing her job, the MD's doing their job, and I'm just talking to myself. And I could picture my childhood imaginary friend. His name is Cinder, and he's got this baby blue outfit on, and I just pretend that I'm talking to him. And I notice my heart rate go down. I notice my breath rate go down. And it really helped me get through that really tough day and then realize that, you know what, I can get through a lot of tough days. And this is the strategy that I'm going to keep in my back pocket. But not only that, people say, well, what do you talk to your imaginary friend about? Well, I like to think that there's some pretty good topics: honesty, options, and decisions. And I really like the honesty piece because if you can just pick an imaginary friend, you don't need a childhood imaginary friend, it could be something new, but admit your fears and let it out and hear yourself say them. That's going to really guide you to the next step. And I think that that will be surprising. So if you need a first place to start, find that what I call the honest mirror. what are you afraid of? Because we're all connected by fears. Everybody's afraid of something. And cancer and money are really big topics when it comes to fear.
It's so true. When I founded Pearl Planning, used one of our very first values, we kind of pivoted since then, was courageous authenticity. The ability to, talk about your fears, talk about what's not working, as well as talk about your strengths. And, these are similar themes of just getting to the heart of what is an obstacle, what is keeping you up at night, is so powerful. You cannot tackle it unless you confront it. So I love that conversation about honesty and, kind of holding yourself up to that mirror. So what's number 2? I think it's options. Is that right?
Options, yes. So you have to shop around for the things that serve you. Interestingly, connecting this to self-care is a billion-dollar industry, and you can shop around for lots of things. You could buy lots of gadgets, but ultimately, is it really going to serve you? You have to decide what's working and what's not. And the nurse slid a psychiatrist's business card over to me when I found out about the BRCA1 mutation. But that was another decision I didn't have the bandwidth to really understand. And I decided that that wasn't going to work for me at the moment. But then you have to dig deep again and you have to figure out what does serve you. Maybe it's group therapy where you have peers with you who you see their example of sharing their story, and it allows you to understand the journey and actually choose your words and put them into action in different environments. When I lived in Toronto during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October, in the subway, there would be a lot of fundraisers for breast cancer. And I didn't take the subway the entire month of October when I found out I had the BRCA mutation because it was terrifying to me. I walked, but then I also got a bike. So it was really interesting. You've got to find options that are going to serve you, or else you're just going to deplete your mental health and sometimes deplete your finances because you can't buy things to make yourself feel better. So when I say shop around, it's really like shopping around for things that serve your mind-body connection.
There are so many choices out there. And I think, probably you found kindred spirits through, I believe you shared that you chose group therapy, um, to assist you. And, through that community, you can sometimes narrow options. And, sometimes it's like the supermarket where you're just like, I don't even know where to start. So, progress, rather than perfection, sometimes it's a case. And certainly there are uh, financial considerations when it comes to choosing how to take care of yourself as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
And then what's number 3 in terms of your kind of mantra of how to overcome your fears in conjunction with your imaginary voice?
Yeah, you have to make decisions. You have to be confident in the decisions that you're making. I don't take decisions lightly. I think you really have to put in the work in the first couple of steps. But during all of this as well, I chose to prophylactically remove my ovaries. This is before I had breast cancer. But that was a decision that I was actually able to make on my own. I was ready for it. The timing was right. And I wanted to reduce my risk of ovarian cancer to as close to 0% as possible. And so that was the option that was available. So it made that decision easier for me to digest, but I had to put in a lot of work before that. So you have to ultimately decide and you have to own it. And that's what's going to help you ultimately use your fears as an asset to get what you want in life.
It's so powerful because, again, I just want to reflect when it comes to that honesty, the options, and the decisions. These are all things that, regardless of what is happening around you, which in many cases can be very dramatic and traumatic and challenging. These three things are things that are within your power. Um, and so that is so powerful, whether you're facing an unfair medical diagnosis or a investment strategy that isn't having its best day. Such important tools to navigate the world without going into, kind of your caveman mentality of kind of fleeing from challenges or, putting your head in the sand.
Mhm. And I like that you said that because in my TEDx talk, I talk about, having nagging little inconveniences or these huge bear-sized problems. The steps still work because ultimately what happens is your body switches on this fear response, and then you start going through all these cycles in your body and you're burning energy and you're burning your ability to make really good decisions. And so you need to go through this process to turn off that fear switch because in our daily lives, I think that we just dim it. I mean, life is hard. There's a lot of challenges. We're all going through something, but we don't want to dim that fear switch. It's very bad for your health.
Is so true. Just internalizing stress can result in so much of both inaction, but also just very negative consequences within yourself. Um, I'll share with you too, just talking about using an imaginary friend as a protagonist. I love that visual. For me, oftentimes I'll personify the voices that express fear as well. So, and acknowledge, hey, this is just a point of view, in order to make it so that that isn't the only thing I'm thinking about. So, if you imagine the angel and devil on your shoulder from the old school Looney Tunes cartoons or something like that, to say, oh, that's my fear speaking, but then it's a separate from just me, can be really powerful as well. And I use that a lot during difficult times. So I love that, like, discussion of inner dialogues that can empower you or also protect you.
I feel like self-talk is a strategy that can really save your life. And I know that sounds uh, like a bold statement, but it's true. I mean, the more you talk to yourself, the more you save yourself.
Well, let's rewind back. So you have this amazing TED Talk, 15 minutes that I think are so powerful and I encourage everyone to listen to. Recorded the dawn of spring. It was last March, wasn't it?
It was this March. Yeah.
Or this March.
Yeah.
Yeah, March, 5 or 6 months ago.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and then you had your diagnosis, you're evaluating your own options to make decisions in context with um doctors, and you leave the TED Talk in the last minute with the news that you now have this new diagnosis. Are you comfortable sharing with us your journey since then in terms of where your medical journey has taken you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I think, what a lot of people don't know behind the scenes is that during rehearsals of these TED Talks, I couldn't get through it without crying. So I was really nervous on stage, but I managed to do it. I was really happy that I could actually get through the TED Talk without crying. But that was in March, and then April 9th, I had a double mastectomy to remove the cancer, and I am doing well. I chose to not have reconstruction. So another piece of this decision making is it's your body and we should not feel pressure to meet the standards of society. For myself, watching my mom and my cousin navigate through many different surgeries, I wanted to have the simplest route to healing. And for me, that meant not doing reconstruction, no implants and not a deep flap where they use your stomach and they reconstruct breasts on either side. That's a very big surgery and a very active with my job as a chiropractor. And I have a 7-year-old. And I really felt like these things weren't options for me. And I had a really amazing surgeon and plastic surgeon at U of M who said, okay, we can help you. There's options that you have. And I was really surprised because I thought that I was going to be forced to have implants and I didn't want to do that. And I want women to know that there is a procedure called a Goldilocks mastectomy where they use your remaining skin and they construct um, a breast for you with your remaining tissue. And I did that and I healed quickly. I'm not saying it was easy. It was the most difficult healing process I've ever gone through in my life. But I feel good. I feel like I'm getting stronger every single day. And in December, I will undergo another procedure where they'll do some fat grafting and they'll be able to do some cosmetic work. So make it look like a more fuller breast, which I think for me is it aligns with how I view wellness, like using your body, using what I already have to make myself feel comfortable. The first time I went grocery shopping and I didn't wear like a prosthetic, or Athleta has these really good inserts in a sports bra that's actually like a cup. Um, the first time I didn't wear that, I went to Kroger, and you know what? It was really liberating. It was like, wow, I'm still myself at the end of the day, right? And I think that we need to support women who really love their bodies and want to show up as themselves all of the time. We need to celebrate more of that rather than pressures to get surgeries that maybe aren't right for you. So, well, that sounds really bold. That's basically where I'm at in my journey, is wanting to convey this message that whatever you want to do to your body is the correct answer.
I love that. And it starts with a point of view of what's important to you, how to define yourself. You're taking all of the medical advice for how to fight the cancer. And then after that, there's the decisions that are allow you to have choices, just like you described, be honest with yourself, and then make a decision that fits you, not what everyone assumes you would do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So, as we prepped for this discussion, um, I know you said that people will often ask you today because you've been vocal about your personal journey, which is such an important tool for others to have resources. And so, thank you for sharing so candidly. But you've said that people approach you and say, how do you deal with the financial consequences of
Mm-hmm.
fighting cancer?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm lucky to have health insurance, so I will say that. I'm also Canadian, and in Canada, this would be completely covered. You just show up. Um, but randomly in my career, which is 20 years, I would just put aside money, not even really consciously thinking of it. I just wanted to have this savings pot. And some months it would be $50, some months it would be $400. And, I just kind of left it, not really thinking of it. And now, fast forward to now, I want to do something better, which I was sharing with you. It's like, what exactly should I be doing? And it's an important question, but I randomly had a savings. And I think the best strategy I tell people is know what your deductible is. Because I looked at the billing, and for women having a mastectomy, it's over $100,000 to have that. And that's really scary to think about. And, I had a deductible that was rather large, which was unexpected. But you sometimes don't think about these things, and we should know. And so my advice to everybody is know what your deductible is and have that stashed away in a pot minimally, right? Because if you need to use it, it's there for you and you don't have to stress about it. Um, and then the other part of this was having a business. I had to find someone to cover me and then redirect my salary over to them. So there was a point in time where, and again, I'm 20 years in my career, so I've made accommodations for these types of things. But what if it happened in Toronto? When I was at the beginning of my career, where I was using my money to go out for dinner and go with my friends on trips because you're newly minted and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't have the savings 20 years ago that I do now, and now it's constantly on my mind, like, what account should I have? How much should be? account? And I think that everybody should really have answers to these questions.
Yeah, everybody's what could go wrong in the middle of the night is a little different. When you're in a relationship, it's not just your needs, it's often or most of the time your partner's needs as well. When you have children, they can have unexpected expenses as well. And depending on your type of employment, so we're both business owners, a business disruption, kind of the buck stops here. For other people, they're employed and there could be, that moment in time where you thought you had a job and then you don't. I love, first of all, when we think about, to me, this starts in a conversation about emergency reserves. How much is it safe to keep on hand? And there's those rules of thumb, like 3 months if you're in a relationship, or and two incomes, and 6 months if you're on one income. But that doesn't necessarily always add up to exactly what you need in terms of emergency reserves. A very concrete conversation is about that deductible. So, what happens if we have, you know, totally unanticipated medical events, or those that are planned where you have a significant medical cost and you need to know your deductible, you need to know how high that could go depending on the circumstances. Other things are, what happens when a car breaks down? If you're a homeowner, what if there needs to be a major repair, or a deductible when it comes to your insurance policy? All of these are so important, and conversations can be very specific to everything that can go wrong. Although the way the world works, you often can't participate. But having healthy reserves, sometimes when I say that, I mean money in the bank that's in cash or in high yield savings, now that interest rates are higher, are so important, and they're a start. And then another slug that neither of us, from the sounds of it, could have afforded in our 20s, because I remember, just being month to month. I never had debt, but I also had never had a lot extra, when I look back at my younger self. But for us who are mid-career and mature career, is if you're able to save more in retirement, are successful there, and you have that emergency reserve, that in between place, it's kind of a mid-range place for money, can be an investment account that is not a retirement account. So you have the ability to access it if your emergency reserves were depleted. And so that becomes a secondary area when you're thinking about, what accounts do I need, especially as a business owner where, things can go, opportunities can present themselves where you need money, and or there can be, a negative economic environment or something unanticipated that comes up. But this, yeah, there's no easy calculator. But we need that conversation, and we have episodes on how to build emergency reserves. So I'll make sure to include those links in the show notes
Please
too.
do. Yes, I think it's so important, and again, it's so much information, and I think that everybody needs a team. You don't have to know the answers and have all the answers, but you should have a team of professionals that can help and guide you, and that's ultimately going to set you up for best case scenario.
Absolutely. I'm also reminded, and I feel so good that it didn't have to come to this for you, but the power and importance of long-term disability insurance. So, some people through work have short-term disability as well. Your work is extremely physical, so any interruption in your own body can interrupt your ability to do work. And that will cover, 3 to 6 months. Oftentimes it mimics like a maternity leave, for example. But long-term disability is for when you can't do your job much longer. And in some cases, it's your specific job. In some cases, it's any job. There is some disability insurance that's offered through Social Security, but it's very low if you're a doctor or a financial planner. So depending on your financial needs, the disability insurance, which is often provided through work, but not always when you're a business owner, or it's not always, kind of one for one. So that's another secondary consideration that can keep you safe in medical events and emergencies.
That's such good
So,
information. I appreciate that because again, it's finding that starting point, right? There's different accounts, there's different strategies that you just outlined, and I think that we need to know where to go.
Where to go, what to do, and again, like if you're one of those people, I know this wasn't the entire focus of the episode, but regular listeners know this is conversation all the time. If you're one of those people where your sense of fear and anxiety are triggered by money conversations, you just know, I don't get it. I feel like everybody else does. The reality is a lot of people who seem really confident also have similar questions. But if that is keeping you from getting started on these important conversations, allow the urgency of this discussion to be, kind of an impetus to start making progress. It is just small incremental decisions that help you get into a better position to protect yourself and your family.
Absolutely. I love that. That's so important. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I know, Rubina, you are always an advocate, and now you've expanded your advocacy even beyond where you were at in your TED Talk. I saw you speak in an American Cancer Society event just in the past couple weeks, and you are going to be fundraising for cancer research coming up in October. I joined your team for the Making Strides Walk. Am I getting the name right?
Absolutely.
So, can you just talk a little bit about that advocacy work? And then, if you don't mind plugging the walk, I'll make sure to link to your team page so that people can participate or sponsor.
Sure, sure. So the American Cancer Society actually reached out to me. They heard about my TED Talk and the BRCA1 mutation, and they asked me to be a portrait of hope for 2025, which is an amazing opportunity where I get to share my story and advocate for women making the choices that we talked about. So I'm very appreciative of that. One night I was up late at night and I was like, what more can I do than I'm currently doing? And I want people to know that you don't always have to have the words to say to somebody. Sometimes we just need to take action. And I thought walking in the 5K for the American Cancer Society in Ann Arbor on October 25th. It starts at 9 a.m. It's a walk, it's a 5K. And what we do is we raise money. The American Cancer Society does so much for research. We need more research if we're going to continue to make advances in this fight against breast cancer and all cancers, actually. So if you don't know what to say, but you want to do something, let's walk together. My team is called the Pink Vibes Tribe. And October 25th, we're going to have a great morning, community and raising awareness and funds for the American Cancer Society. You don't have to join my team. You can donate if you're not available that day, or you can also make your own team. And I said at the event that I spoke at, when a cancer survivor shows up to an event like this and sees all these people surrounding her, it fuels her ability to say, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a difference to another woman who maybe is newly diagnosed. I'm going to show her what we can do together. So I really encourage people to participate and join in October.
Well, that research is so powerful. I know research funding from other conversations with clients who are researchers themselves is always in flux, but especially this year. And so, an investment in a donation is an investment in our collective health and well being. So, thank you for sharing your story and using your voice to advocate for better outcomes in the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. It was fun. And I hope we get a good message out today and it resonates with people and kind of lights a fire. That's what this is all about. I hope that everybody feels a spark today.
Well, as we're signing off, can you just share where people can find you, Rubina, to either follow your story or access your services as a chiropractor?
Sure. So LinkedIn, so be Dr. Rubina Tahir. On Instagram, it's the same thing. And I'm at the Joint in Ann Arbor. And we always run a special where it's $29 for your initial visit. It's a great time to take advantage of such a low price to get in front of a healthcare practitioner where you can ask me as many questions about your health as you want.
Dr. Rubina Tahir, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon at the Making Strides Walk.
Thank you for listening to the Women's Money Wisdom podcast. If you found value in this episode, the best way that you can support the podcast is to forward an episode to a friend or leave a review. Go to proplan.com and the podcast link to get all the resources and links mentioned. This presentation by Pearl Planning is intended for general information purposes only. No portion of this presentation serves as the receipt of or a substitute for personal investment advice from Pearl Planning or any other investment professional of your choosing. Copies of Pearl Planning's current written disclosure brochure and Form CRS discussing our advisory services and fees are available upon request or on our website platform at pearlplan.com. The information that we share is meant to educate and inspire, not serve as personalized financial advice. Everyone's situation is unique, so be sure to consult with your own financial professional for guidance that fits your life. And just so you know, the opinions shared in this podcast are Melissa's own and those of her guests. They don't necessarily represent any organizations with which Melissa is affiliated. For more important disclosures, please go to our webpage at pearlplan.com.